2 wins at Snapdragon Stadium, and there were goals galore, 3 to be exact. But now we are headed to Denver to play the Colorado Rapids, and their stadium sits at 5,200 feet elevation. SDFC better have those lungs ready because it is never fun to work out, to run, to do anything in elevation. Don't think it will be a problem, but we did play our second game against the Real Salt Lake team in Utah, and that stadium was 4,500 feet. And when I was watching that tape, we did look a little bit leggy. It did look like we were struggling a little bit with fitness. But I think we're in mid-season form, so hopefully the fitness is up. Hopefully we won't have too much of a problem acclimating to that elevation. Also, before we get into all the questions of how do we match up against the Rapids, what are the areas on the pitch that we can attack to dominate this game? But also the most important question, who wins and by how much? We're going to get into all that, but just got a couple announcements. Tonight, I will be shooting an episode for the winner of the free Wave FC ticket giveaway. Today is the day to reveal the winner. It was a completely free giveaway. All you had to do was go on the penaltykickpodcast.com to go sign up. There was no subscription needed, no likes, no sharing, no nothing. All you had to do was go sign up at the penaltykickpodcast.com. Nothing to do with YouTube. It was just completely free for the people that have been supporting my channel. There might be more to come, but you got to stay tuned. Also, we have a very, very special guest, the first ever guest on the Penalty Kick podcast coming on this show shortly. So we're going to introduce him. He is writing for SDFC Nation. So he breaks down the games, does pregame, postgame, does a lot of news in there. So, let's get into all of that. Let's start this off by welcoming our guest right now. So without further ado, let's welcome the first ever guest to the Penalty Kick podcast, the writer, the creator of SDFC Nation. Welcome, Dimitri. How you doing? Welcome to the show. You know SDFC is about those 18 threads, 18 communities. So let's weave them together and let's give you a shout out. Where are you calling in from? Where are you logging in from? What community in San Diego are you in right now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mike. I'm excited to be here, man. Thank you for having me. Yeah, man, I live in San Diego. I lived in San Diego my whole life. So right now I'm in Santee, and people could find me on SDFC Nation on Instagram, SDFC Nation on Twitter, or X as you might call it nowadays. Yeah, so dude, I really love it. I just break down the pre-match, break down the post game, and it just comes from the heart. I love the city, I love the team. But yeah, dude, I have so much fun doing it, and I think people are gonna enjoy it if they check it out. So thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to break this down. Yeah.
Man, so excited to have you because I remember, when we talked and then even when we met at the game, man, it was just so good to talk soccer, right? And to talk about the details, the nitty gritty about these games and the other teams and the players that are going to stand out. But I can't tell y'all, to everyone out there watching, I can't tell you, I'm an avid reader. I love reading. Reading is the thing I do each and every day. Dimitri sent me his stuff and I was impressed. I was all in the moment he sent it. His writing style is smooth. It just flows really well. He breaks down complex topics into easily understandable things and tactics and breakdowns and analysis. So I've absolutely loved reading his blog, and I'm going to continue to follow his blog, continue to support that. So thank you so much, Dimitri, for coming into the show. But we need to get into it. We have to get into it right now. Let's break down Colorado, and I'll kick it off. Let's start with some statistics because we need to see one side of this story. Colorado sits 7th in the West. That is mid-table. They have more goals against than they do goals scored. Seattle was 12th in the league and had a better goal differential than the Colorado Rapids. So Seattle had bigger differential than the number 7 Colorado Rapids. We need to understand why that is. What do we need to watch out for? Another really, really big statistic, they have a passing accuracy of 78.3%. And that is second worst in the league. Turnovers, bad passes show up on the tape when I was watching it. That could be key for us going into this game and capitalizing in transition. Y'all know who we got in attack and how we like to turn them turnovers into goals real quick. So I can see us having some opportunity against some of Colorado's weaknesses. But Dimitri, I have to ask you, what are some things you saw about Colorado, maybe some holes and some weaknesses that showed up on tape and when you were studying this team?
Yeah, man, I think you broke it down pretty well there. You know, the one thing that is apparent to me is they play tight, right? So they don't play wide at all, like we've seen other teams do, and they play flat in the back. So a lot of times that they get beat with through balls. They get beat over the top. They don't mark because there's like four guys kind of trying to figure out who they're supposed to mark when people are running at them. And guess what we do well? We run at teams. So hey, man, I think that's going to be their biggest weakness, and they've got a shaky defense, man. Like it's crazy. I was watching these highlights, watched a couple of their games, and I was like, I cannot believe they're not picking up their runners. Like people are just running through them, and especially when teams like bring their back line into the attack. So, dude, I think that's going to be the key that we try to expose for sure.
Definitely. I mean, I definitely agree with that. When I was looking at the tape, it wasn't so much their positioning. I thought their positioning was okay on the back line, but as you said, they couldn't track runners or they couldn't keep up with runners that were running in behind them. And we have some of the fastest players on the wing. So I think that can definitely be exposed. Another thing that I did notice is for this season, they have an XG expected goals of 10.9, yet they've only scored 8 goals this year. They're obviously having certain problems in front of net. Also, they predominantly play a 4-3-3. Last game, they did play a 4-2-3-1. But again, we play teams that have more of an attacking style really well. They might be playing right into our hands because, as you said, space and behind, turnover and counter, control the game. Also, we can control possession. They've only controlled and won possession throughout an entire game once in this MLS year so far. But now we need to look at what they do well because we can't sleep on this team. Points don't lie. The table does not lie, and they're seventh for a reason. When I was looking at the tape, they had just these scrappy goals off deflections, rebounds that ended up going right to the feet because they were hustling and getting in the right spaces, even though they were scrappy and it wasn't a pretty goal. And let me tell you, peep this. This year, they've beaten San Jose, Charlotte, but wait for it. They've beaten Austin FC. Yeah, the Austin FC that beat us and took care of us, the Austin FC that's third in the West. You can't just say, like, hey, we're going to go in and win this game. That's not how it works. We have to get to business and we have to mean it. One big statistic that is in their favor, Colorado has a 78.6 save percentage going into this game. That's top 5 in the MLS, and that's better than SDFC. Guess why? Zach Steffen. Zach Steffen is between the posts. And if you don't know who Zach Steffen is, this dude is an absolute baller at goalie. He played for Manchester City. Yes, Manchester City. He played behind Ederson, who's a great goalkeeper. But if you're on that team, even if you're backing up a great goalkeeper, just because you're on Manchester City, you have to be a baller to make it there. And that means he isn't a chump. And that's why he's making all those saves. He had an absolutely phenomenal game against San Jose, and that's the reason they got the win. So that is definite strength to watch out for. But Dimitri, what do you think we got to watch out for? Or who maybe do we need to watch out for against the Colorado Rapids so that they take home that
Yeah,
L?
yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think a lot of the goals that they got were scrappy goals. You know, that's one of those things that you just can't predict. I mean, you could play your defense, you could do everything right, and the ball just bounces one way, right? And they make you pay. That's going to be something to watch out for. I'm not too worried about that because I do see that our defense is pretty stout the past couple of games for sure. You know, the one thing that we do have to watch out for, in my opinion, is their best player, their number 10, Georgi Mihailovic. He's like I compare him to a Chucky, right? Like he's supposed to be this goal scorer, but he's also running at people, he's creating space, he's putting the ball into the box, and he's creating assists. He's only got 2 goals on the season, but he's making those plays happen. So he's gonna be their most important player. He is the playmaker on that team. They've got their number 9, Rafa Navarro. I haven't seen too much of him, but what I have seen was he's in the right place at the right time, which is kind of a testament to how Colorado gets their scrappy goals, right? So that true number 9, the best number 9s are the ones that are going to be able to find the space and get in between the lines and always going to be at the right spot at the right time. And those players, those kind of like sneaky players that'll just get in behind, and they're tough to mark, and you're just like, dude, like all these goals that this guy gets, they're all these like scrappy goals. He doesn't really like create them, but that's the kind of player he is, and he's like super important to this team. So I'd say watch out for those two, and then just play your stout defense, and we should be fine.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. I mean, Georgie shows up on tape everywhere. He really runs this team. He's the engine of this team. As you said, he facilitates not only goals, but he facilitates assists. He had 11 goals in 29 games last year. He's traditionally a center midfielder, but he really does play on the Chucky side, on the left wing a lot. And I absolutely agree with you. The way he runs at people, very similar to Chucky. I also think he's like kind of a mix of Chucky and Luca de la Torre. He really kind of has the body, a little bit of a Luca de la Torre, but he can do both of those things. Again, facilitate really well, run the midfield, run the wing. He is just a really, really good player, top flight player. We have to watch out for him as well. And Navarro, you're right. He's a traditional striker, right place, right time, and that is a skill. So need to watch out for that. And that's what I'm going to say. Don't be lulled to sleep because maybe we're dominating possession. Don't be over, cocky, like, oh, I don't need to maybe run as hard to that, track runner because they're not going to pass him the ball. We can't be lulled to sleep because that's how scrappy goals happen, because you're not paying full attention. Of course, there is luck involved sometimes, but you can't have that much luck without making it. And I think they do make their own luck by hustling, which means we need to out hustle them. We need to be locked in 90 minutes for the game to make sure this is not an Austin FC game where we were allowing runners to run in behind and we weren't tracking back. We didn't have our full defense, understandable. But again, this team, Colorado Rapids, beat a great team in Austin FC. So we have to watch out for that.
And
Now
sorry,
we,
sorry to interrupt you, but
no,
the one thing that I was gonna add about Zach Steffen is he's made some great saves, and I watched some of those games, but a lot of the saves that he's made, honestly, are straight at him. There's been a couple that he's taken out, like dug out from, and they've been incredible. But a lot of those saves that he makes are shots that go straight at him. So as long as we can put the ball in the corners and pick out our shots, like this guy's not going to be getting to him as well as people might think. You can't forget we just scored 3 goals on probably like the best goalie in the league. You know what I mean? So it's like this team is not going to have an issue scoring goals as long as they're playing their game up front. And we'll get to that, right? Right. We'll talk about that. But I'm saying Zach Steffen is good, but he can be beat. And I think we're the right team to kind of expose him. So that's my hot take. Write it down.
definitely. Well, and he can't play his own defense, right? So let's make sure we give those good shots on goal. Like you said, let's tuck those away. And as you mentioned, we not only scored 3 goals last game, we also scored three goals the game before that. We need to get that momentum and continue that confidence into this game. But how do we win 3 in a row? How do we make this game our 3rd win in a row? So I'm actually going to send it back to you, Dimitri. How do we win this game?
Yeah, man. One thing that I saw was they are susceptible to through balls, right? And they get caught when teams bring their defenders, their outside defenders up into the attack. Guess what we do? That's exactly our game plan. Lawfulson, Negri, always pushing up, always involved in the attack. You saw it last game. Lawfulson making that interception, making that crazy run down the side and then getting the ball back, passing it off to Chucky one time. That's a goal. He's been involved like that plenty of times. You saw that from Negri as well. I do think those two players are going to start the game. You know, we might have a change. You never know what Mikey Bars is going to do with the lineup, man. It's crazy. You know what I mean? It is. We have. I'll tell you guys what. We have a really nice problem to have, if you will, because we've got so many good players on the bench right now. You know, I'm glad I'm not making that decision. But anyways, so the way that we beat them is bring those defenders up into the attack, play wide. They play so tight in the middle. They play tight as a unit. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna try to play fast. We're gonna be, brave on the ball when we're under attack, brave on the ball in the back, push that ball out onto the wings, and then try and get the through ball, get the runs in behind the defense. And I think that's going to be the major key to beating this team.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see because, as you said, we love bombing those wings forward. And the wings was an area I was looking at, not only just because, obviously I think the Rapids have weaknesses, but I think just we're great on the wings, especially the attacking wings when we can overlap. I will say, I always do have questions about Lawfulson in the defense. I do think that's kind of our weakest area, and we haven't quite settled on a person because, like you said, you don't know what Mikey Vars is always going to do. So we'll have to see. I will say, I think we are going to force turnovers and we're going to counter. Gives us even more space, gives us even more opportunity to run in behind, even gives us more opportunity to move the ball quickly and then hopefully have their defense completely unbalanced. Because like I said, I don't think they're horrible at their defensive positioning. I just don't think they're as fast. I don't think they're as strong, as athletic as some of the defensives we've already faced. So let's burn them down the wings with overlapping runs, as you said, but also control the pace of the game. I will say if they've only won possession once in an MLS game this year. We can do that. We can control possession and then we can invite them forward to us so we can still have that space in behind. I just want to make sure that Georgie is not per se the star of the show. If he's the star of the show, it could still be a very tough game. If you make Georgie really, really quiet, I think Colorado is going to have a lot of problems scoring goals, creating chances. Make Luka the guy in the middle that kind of shows up on tape and Georgie's the quiet one. So I do want to see that. I do want to see our defense and even our offense control possession, as you said, be brave on the ball, especially when passing out the back, which leads us to our keys of the game. Again, just mentioned turnover and go. Get that turnover because of their passing accuracy is not good. Score that goal, make it happen, make it quick. Goal momentum. We've scored 6 goals in 2 games. Continue the momentum, continue the confidence, and go flying forward. And lastly, as I just mentioned, control Georgie. Don't have him take over this game. Luka control the game and let the stars shine in Chucky Dreer. Just want to see Georgie be very, very quiet. And Dimitri, it's been absolutely awesome to have you on the show, but a couple parting questions. We'll get to it really quick. Who wins this game, and what is the score going to be at the end of this game?
Yeah, man. I'm going to be really, really interested to see how this team does in altitude. We played in RSL in altitude a little bit, but this team loves to run. We run from the beginning to end. So that's going to be a key. Guys getting, staying fit, maybe making the substitution. As long as we can, stick to the plan, I think we win this game. I think we won't have an issue. I'm gonna go ahead and be cocky like that. You know what I mean? I'm gonna say 3-1. I think they get a scrappy goal on us, but I'm thinking 3-1, Mike.
Hey, I definitely agree with you with the win, but I will have to predict a different score. I'm going to go with the 2-0 score line, SDFC with the win. We'll see what happens. Dimitri, again, absolute pleasure having you on the show. Everyone, follow SDFC Nation. Get your read on, get the breakdowns. All of that is happening on SDFC Nation. It's happening with Dimitri. Big shout out to you. I'll be, continuing talking to you, continue to linking up. You have a great rest of the night. Everyone on the Penalty Kick podcast, big shout out. Can't wait to see y'all in the next episode after we beat the Colorado Rapids. See y'all next time.